Hey everybody, it's Lizzie and welcome to your next yoga class. Today we are getting all into our hamstrings. We are strengthening and lengthening our hamstrings, and by doing so we will improve our flexibility, reduce lower back pain, improve our posture, reduce the pressure or possible injuries within our ligaments, and then we will also create more power in the backside of the body. So anything that propels us forward, like running, walking, and just general movement that we find in our day-to-day, will have a little more power and control because we've strengthened that backside of the body that helps to power us forward. Today we are going to have several vinyasas to transition us from pose to pose. It is going to be a class that might build a little heat, build a little sweat. Our hamstrings are sensitive areas. We can pull them really easily in just natural day-to-day movements. So we're going to take our time warming up into it. If it's a little bit too much for you, skip the chaturangas or modify, come down onto your knees, skip the vinyasas and just send the hips back up for downward facing dog. I'll probably cue that a few times, but I just want to say it now. Honor your body because you know your body more than I do. Also, lastly, if you want to bring a couple blocks or block-shaped objects into this practice, it's not mandatory, but I probably will pick them up a couple times and show you what you can do with them just to aid in your practice. Again, not necessary, but just to elevate things a little bit. So go ahead and roll out your mat, grab what you need, maybe a coffee, maybe a water, and meet me back here. So today we're going to begin on our backs. So go ahead and roll down. Find yourself in a comfortable position. And from here, just take a moment to bend into the knees and bring the soles of the feet to the earth. Hands can come down at your sides. And I just want you to push into the heels and start to tuck the pelvis so you feel the lower back gluing down to the mat. And then you can kind of release that. Roll it back up. Feel the lower back glue down to the mat as you shift that pelvis forward. Release. Tuck it one more time just to kind of familiarize yourself with what that feels like for the rest of the practice. And then begin to hug both knees into the chest. Flex the toes towards the face. Wrap the fingers around the shins or wherever you can comfortably grab. Right now you might not be warmed up. You might not be ready for this. You can go ahead and rock side to side. Do whatever feels good. And then holding onto the right leg around the shin, keeping those right toes flexed towards the face. Extend the left leg long on the mat in front of you. Start to gently create some circles with the knee. And just close the eyes here. And as we just find this subtle movement to start warming up the body, take a moment here to bring your awareness to your breath. Take a deep inhale. Exhale, let it go. Start to bring the fingers around the thigh and start to straighten that right leg towards the ceiling, still flexing the toes towards the face. Hand is around that meaty part of the thigh, around the hamstring actually. And then very gently just start to pull the knee towards the nose, finding your limit here. Do not push anything. It's just a subtle pull. So you're just starting to feel it in the backside of the body, but you are not yanking. You're barely bending your elbows to find this gentle pull. Keeping the eyes closed. Remind yourself that this is your practice. This is your time. This is your time of love and self-care. You can start to release anything that's not going to serve you in this practice today. If the ego starts to arrive and negative thoughts start to arrive and your to-do list starts to arrive, acknowledge and dismiss it. This is your time. Start to bend into that right knee. And nice and slow, release it down to the floor. Inhale, left knee bends into the belly, fingers wrap around the shins, left toes flex towards the face. We start to find those subtle circles with the knee on the other side. Go ahead and close the eyes again. And start to find deep inhales that match the length of your deep, slow exhales. So maybe you start to inhale for a count of 4 or 5. You feel the belly fill up because that breath has nowhere else to go. Deep, deep breaths here. It's nothing shallow. And then as you exhale with control, nice and slow. Letting a little bit more go as you do so. Really bringing yourself into this moment. And then start to shift those fingertips behind the thigh. Left toes stay flexed as you extend that left leg towards the ceiling. Sole of the feet is parallel to the ceiling. Start to feel the backside of the leg fire up a little bit. When I say fire up, it's just waking it up. It's just an unfamiliar feeling from where you just were. And then gentle, subtle, maybe even just a centimeter pull of the knee towards the nose. If you look up here at me, you'll see that my knee is nowhere near my nose. That's just the direction we're headed. Nice and slow. Start to exhale it down. Bring both knees into the chest and start to rock forward and back. We are going to meet in our tabletop. So once you start rocking forward and back, you have the option to cross the ankles and roll over the knees and then kind of step back to your tabletop. Or you can roll over after you rock a few times onto your side and then find your knees for your tabletop from there. So we'll rock forward and back. Feeling that nice massage along the spine. Feeling that lower back start to release a little more tension. And then when you're ready, find that tabletop. So as we arrive in our tabletop, we have the shoulders over the elbows, over the wrists. We have the hips over the knees. The toes are untucked. We'll move into some cat-cows here. So on an inhale, let the belly drop. Lift the chin, lift the heart. On your exhale, push into the hands, round through the shoulders, tuck the chin into the chest. Inhale, belly drops, heart lifts. Shoulders pull down, shoulder blades pull down the back to create space. Exhale. Cat pose, round through the spine. Inhale one last time, pull that heart forward. Exhale, round through the spine. Dome it out, create space here. Shift back to that tabletop, tuck the toes, send the hips up for downward facing dog. We'll take 5 full rounds of breath here to settle into our down dog. And as we do so, set up your foundation. Make sure you're where you need to be in this pose. So fingers are spread nice and wide. Pads of the fingers are plugging into the mat, really gripping down so you're not pushing all your weight into the heel of your hand. Your gaze is up towards your thighs or even your belly if you want to take it a little bit further. Heels are reaching down towards the earth, but no big deal if they don't get there. Bend into the knees as you need to. Ears are pulling away from the biceps and the shoulders. Take 2 more full deep inhales and exhales here. And then keeping the toes flexed towards the wrist. So rather than coming up all the way onto our toes to walk the feet to meet the hands, we're going to start getting into the hip flexors. So as we do, we need to pull the quad up into our hip to lift the foot, keeping the toes flexed towards the wrist, keeping the foot flat towards the mat to create that space to lift the foot and walk it forward. So take your time, really feeling the legs fire up here. And then arriving at the top of your mat in a forward fold, Uttanasana. Feet are hip distance apart. We'll spend a few breaths here, actually probably 5 full rounds of breaths, but let's settle in first. So feet are hip distance apart. Bending into the knees as you need to. So if you actually don't need a nice deep bend, I still want you to keep a micro bend there. We don't want to lock our knees out. We don't want to hyperextend. Crown is falling heavy towards the earth. If you're feeling super flexy and you've got a little more space, you can wrap the hands around the hamstrings on the thighs above the knees and start to draw the crown down towards the floor a little bit more, drawing the nose towards the knees. I always tend to say knees towards the nose, but it's backwards. So let's take 5 full rounds of breath here now that we're settled in. Feeling that release up through the hamstrings, down through the shoulder blades. And then vertebrae by vertebrae, we'll inhale to rise up. Go nice and slow. So slow. Bend into the knees. Head arrives last. Shoulders roll up and down and pull together. Moving into sun salutation A, we'll take one round of this. Inhale, sweep the arms up. Gaze will follow. Exhale to hinge at the hips, forward fold, Uttanasana. Inhale to halfway lift, hands on the shins, heart lifts, belly becomes parallel to the earth. Exhale to plant the hands, step back, find your high plank. Here's where we'll find a modification. We're all coming down onto our knees. Shift the weight forward about 2 inches. As you exhale, hug the elbows into the ribs, bend it 90 degrees, and then let's inhale our heart forward. Legs come down onto the earth, push into the tops of the feet. Exhale to your downward facing dog. Take 2 rounds of breath here. Gaze goes up towards the thighs. Heels are reaching down towards the earth. On an inhale, gaze towards the hands. Use your exhale to step the feet to meet the hands at the top of your mat. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale to fold. Inhale, sweep the arms all the way up. Gaze follows. Exhale, release the hands down through heart center. Sweep the arms all the way up. Exhale, forward fold, let it go. Inhale to halfway lift. Exhale to plant the hands. This time the right foot will stay, the left foot will step back, runner's lunge. So take a moment here to let that right knee come into the right armpit. Hands are on either side of the foot here. Lifting up the left heel above the left toes, really opening the backside of that leg up towards the ceiling, finding length. And then left knee will lower down to the earth, left toes untuck. Inhale, sweep the arms up. We have our foundation here for our arms on Asana, low lunge. If you are feeling a little bit more open, start to heel toe that right foot forward. Belly pulls into the spine here. Shoulders are rolling down, shoulder blades are pulling together. And then we'll start to shift forward, opening up that left hip flexor towards the earth. Keeping the belly pulling into the spine so we have that strength coming into the midline here, so we're not just kind of flopping down into the posture. We're still staying totally in control. Exhale, bring both hands down to frame that front foot. Left hand will stay, right arm will blow up and open. Find and feel your twist. Gaze will follow. Use your exhale to bring both hands down. Lift the back knee by tucking the back toes. Step back, find your high plank. Move through your chaturanga. Inhale your heart forward for upward facing dog, and exhale to your downward facing dog. This time, left foot will step between the hands, so we'll bring that left knee towards the nose, round through the shoulders to create space. Use the core to step it between. Pause here in your runner's lunge. Left knee towards the left armpit. Hands are framing the foot. We're lifting up that right heel, really opening up and feeling that backside of the right leg fire up. Right knee comes down to the earth, right toes untuck. Right hand on the mat, left arm blows up and open, feel and find your twist. Can you use your inhales to pull the crown towards what's in front of you, and can you use your exhales to twist a little bit deeper from the hips? Feel the belly pull into the spine so you can twist a little bit deeper to let a little bit more go. Exhale, unwind. Both hands come down to frame that front foot. Back toes tuck, lift the back knee. And try to, without sweeping the left foot on the mat, a little bit of a core challenge. Step that left foot back to meet the right. High plank. Move through your flow, or find your downward facing dog. From here, right foot will step forward between the hands. So again, hug knee into the nose, round through the shoulders, push into the hands, and then create the space to use the core to step the right foot between. Left knee will come down to the mat, left toes will on top. Here's where you can grab a couple blocks if you have them handy and you want to use them if you're tight in the hamstrings. Hands will come down to frame the right foot. We're going to send the hips back for Ardha Hanumanasana, half splits pose. So we start to straighten through the right leg. Then we'll roll up onto the right heel and flex the toes of the right foot towards the face. Take a moment here to come off the hands to feel the hips. We want the hips to be level. So there's a strong chance that we need to pull the left hip forward and the right hip back a little bit to level them out. And that's fine and well to adjust there. And then we'll come into the posture. So we want to keep the spine long. We want to be mindful not to round over the leg here. So keep the heart pulling open towards the toes just as much as you're flexing the toes towards the heart. If you have a couple blocks, here's where they can come into play. I'll do a quick demo. They can come to either side of the leg or the foot on whichever setting feels good to you. So if you're super tight, maybe you have them in the highest setting, or sometimes I like to use them as leverage. So I can really start to pull the heart open towards the toes to really start to feel that opening and to feel that tension leave the entire back side of that leg. So the more you keep the spine long and you keep pulling that spine from the hips, keeping the chin pulling forward, you're going to start to feel a deeper opening. Shoulders pull back here, shoulder blades pull down the back. Take 2 more breaths here. It's uncomfortable, I know. And then use your exhale to unwind, rolling that right foot back down to the mat. If you're using blocks, you can brush them off to the side. For now, keep them close and bring both hands down to frame the right foot. Tuck the back toes, lift the back knee. We're rolling into standing split. So you have 2 options to enter. You can step the left foot in a little bit closer to the right, or if you want to use your strength, you can just roll up off the left toes and send that left leg high to the sky. Keep the toes flexing down towards. Keep the toes flexing here and start to really feel yourself open up through that right leg. Crown falls heavy down towards the earth. If you want to take this a step further, you can wrap one hand around the ankle. Maybe you wrap 2. We have a slight bend in that right leg. Avoiding hyperextending, avoiding locking out here. We're keeping the ligament safe by keeping that bend. And then exhale, left foot meets the right in a forward fold. For each forward fold that we take today, can you start to get a little bit deeper? Maybe you wrap the hands around the calves or the ankles and you start to draw that crown down. Start to feel that low back release. Release both hands down to the mat. Inhale, lift halfway. Exhale to fold. Plant the hands, move through your vinyasa. Inhaling the heart forward. Exhaling over the toes to downward facing dog. Right foot will step between the hands as we root to rise to high crescent. So build your foundation first. We're propelling up off those left toes. Left heel's lifted. Inhale to root to rise. Sweep the arms up. Right knee is bent at a 90-degree angle. That knee is over the ankle, not past the toes. Shoulders roll down, shoulder blades roll down the back. Heart's expanding. That left leg is opening up towards the ceiling, just as we did in that runner's lunge. Lift up out of the hips, open up, exhale, warrior 2. So that back foot will pivot and become parallel to the short edge of the mat. We have a front heel to back arch alignment. Belly pulls into the spine. Pelvis is tucked. Gaze goes right over that middle finger in the front. Chest is opening. Inhale as you straighten through the right leg. Exhale to hinge at the hips, Trikonasana triangle pose. So we want our shoulders to be stacked here. It's almost like I could come around and bring both hands and arms out, and you could slide right in between them here. So by doing so, sometimes we have to sacrifice that bottom hand touching the earth, and that's okay. Gaze goes up to the left fingers. Maybe here's where you grab a block again. If you look up here, I'm grabbing my block. I'm going to bring it to the inside of my right foot. Then from there, I'm going to stack my shoulders, open my chest, and find my triangle. 2 more breaths here. And then we'll windmill back up to our warrior 2. And then exhale to windmill the arms down to frame that front foot. Pause in your runner's lunge. Push into the mat for strength. Step back. Find your high plank. Move through your flow or find your downward facing dog. From here, left foot will step between the hands. Right knee will come down to the earth. Right toes will untuck. Sweep the arms up to frame the earth for a moment as you shift forward. And find that sweet spot. Now exhale both hands down to frame that left foot. Ardha Hanumanasana on the other side. The hips roll back. We come onto the left heel. We flex the left toes towards our face. Reach back. Feel those hips. Even them out. Then keep that spine nice and long. Keep that heart opening towards the toes. I like to physically walk my hands out as far as I can to deepen that stretch as much as I can. Maybe here we find our Ujjayi breath as we start to really let that tension leave the body. By doing so, we keep the lips closed. We take a deep inhale, and then as we exhale, we constrict the back of the throat like we're fogging a mirror. I invite you to do that throughout the practice at any point when you're starting to feel like the tension leaving the body is just too much. Start to roll that left foot back down. We're moving into our standing split. Hands are framing the left foot. Again, you have the option to roll off the right toes from here, or you step the foot in a bit till you're comfortable. Right foot lifts and opens. Standing split. Keep that bend into that left knee. Keep the right toes flexing down towards the earth. Exhale, right foot meets the left. Inhale to halfway lift. Exhale to fold. Plant the hands, step back, move through your flow or find your down dog. From here, left foot will step between the hands. Inhaling to rise to our high crescent, we set up our foundation first. Root down into the feet for strength, sweep the arms up on the inhale. Keeping that right leg long behind you. Inhale, lift up out of the hips, open up warrior 2. Pivot that back foot down. Belly pulls into the spine. On an inhale, we'll straighten through the left leg. Exhale, hinge at the hips, triangle pose. So again, the block can come to the inside of the leg or the foot. The left hand will support on the block. And then the right hand will blow up and open. Feel the shoulder blades flow together behind you. Feel the inner thigh turn on. Inhale to windmill the arms up to that warrior 2. Take a deep inhale here. Exhale, windmill the arms down. Frame the front foot, step back to your high plank, move through your flow. And exhale to your downward facing dog. From here, we're coming down onto our forearms for dolphin pose. So you have the option to just transition right on down to the forearms for a little extra challenge, or you can come down onto the knees first. So I'm going to walk the elbows in a bit so they are under the shoulders. Hands can interlace, or fingers can stay flat on the earth. Hips are still pushing up towards the ceiling as you start to walk the feet in. Push in to the arms to round through the shoulders here and walk the feet in a little bit more. Heels are reaching down towards the earth. 5 rounds of breath here. I'm going to move into my Ujjayi breath. Exhale, lower the knees down to the earth. Push up into the hands, find that tabletop, and then keep the toes tucked as you send the hips up on your exhale for downward facing dog. Right foot will step between the hands. From here, we're moving into pyramid pose. So again, if you have blocks, I will show you what you can do with them in just a moment. Step that left foot in and then over to the left so your feet are hip distance apart. So it's like you're walking on railroad tracks rather than having them next to each other. We want our heel, front heel, and our back toes to be about 2 to 3 feet apart. Again, the deeper you go with this and your width and your stance, the deeper you'll get into the muscles on the back side of that leg. From here, inhale to lift halfway. Bring the hands to the shins, elongate through the spine, pull the crown in front of you. And then exhale, pull the belly into the spine, fold nose to knee in your pyramid. Just like in our half splits pose, reach up and feel the hips. You might have to pull that right hip back a little bit and that left hip forward. We have a tendency to come out of alignment with that when we start to lead with one leg. Micro bend in the right knee, no hyperextending and locking out. If you have blocks, again, just as in our Ardha Hanumanasana, they will come here to either side to support you. You can lift up the chest. They can come on the lower level just so you don't have to reach down as far to get to the earth with the hands. And we're going to take 5 full rounds of breath, starting now in this pose. So you can close the eyes. Let the crown fall heavy towards the earth, keeping the spine long though. Again, we want to be mindful not to slump over the leg. And find that Ujjayi breath if that feels okay, or if you need a little more of a deeper release. And then bringing the hands to either side of the foot if they're not already there. Remove them from the blocks. Inhale to lift halfway. Frame that front foot with the hands, and we'll roll off the left toes and find our standing split. We're adding a pause into the standing split, so we still have that micro bend in the right knee. We're still flexing those toes, those left toes, and now we'll pause for 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Lower that leg back long behind you in that runner's lunge. Take a moment here to just let it go. Use your inhale to sweep the arms up, high crescent. From here, open up warrior 2. Moving into half moon pose. Again, if you have a block, you can bring it to the pinky toe side of your right foot. I'm going to do it without a block just to show you what it's like without the block, and then I'll show you with the block on the other side. So we're going to set that left foot in just a bit towards that right foot for now. We're going to hinge at the hips and bring that right hand to the pinky toe side of the right foot. Then we're going to roll off the left toes, opening the hips to the side, flexing the left toes towards the face. Supporting ourselves just a bit with those fingers of the right hand on the mat. Then we'll stack our shoulders and left hand will blow up and open towards the ceiling. If you want to challenge yourself, you can shift that gaze up towards that hand. Alternatively, you can take the right hand off the mat towards the heart space. 2 more breaths. And then we'll lower that left foot back long behind us and rise up to warrior 2. I'm going to turn to face you just so my butt's not in your face for our next posture. Turn all 10 toes towards the side wall, star pose. Hands will come down to the hips. From here, you can turn the toes in a bit if that feels okay, or you can just keep all 10 toes facing out forward. Inhale, open up through the heart. Find a nice long spine. Feel the shoulder blades pull together. Exhale, send the booty back, hinge, forward fold. we have a couple options here. You can let the hands come down underneath the shoulders. You can start to walk them back with the fingers facing the wall behind you, or you can walk the hands back with the fingers facing in the direction of your toes so the heels of your hands are in alignment with the heels of your feet. Wherever you are going, or you can grab ankles here. Wherever you are going though, I want you to start to shift the weight forward into the balls of your feet, drawing the crown a little closer towards the earth, feeling the backside of your entire leg opening up. I want you to trust that you're not going to fall on your face here. Your body will know what to do to catch you, so really shift that weight forward. Feel the toes grip down into the mat. 5 full rounds of breath from here. Begin to walk the hands back underneath the shoulders. Inhale to lift halfway. Exhale, let it go. Slightly bend into the knees. Inhale to rise up all the way. Open back up to your warrior two. I'll turn back around so we're on the same side. Take a deep inhale here. Exhale, windmill the arms down. Move through your vinyasa. From here, left foot will step between the hands or just towards the hands. We're moving back into that pyramid. Right foot will step out and in. Take a moment here to set up your foundation with your feet and your legs. Feet are like they're walking on railroad tracks. Inhale to lift halfway. Exhale to fold, nose to the knee. Keep that micro bend in the left knee. We're spending quite a few breaths here. So again, if you need the blocks or even a pillow, or yesterday I suggested a Tupperware container to a friend, here, go ahead and take what you need. Check in with your hips, left hips pulling back, right hips pulling forward so that way they're level. Maybe you find that ujjayi breath, keeping the lips closed, letting the teeth fall apart, constricting the back of the throat. Also known as ocean breath. Start to walk the hands back on either side of the foot if they're not already there. Rolling up onto the right toes, standing split. So find your foundation, and then we will pause for 10, 9, 8. Feel the booty fire up. 4, 3, 2, 1. Exhale that right foot out long behind you in that runner's lunge, and then inhale up to high crescent. Keep that right heel lifted. Feel that backside of the leg fire up to keep you standing and strong. Lift up out of the hips, open up, warrior two. Belly's pulling into the spine, pelvis is tucked, heart's opening. We're using our exhale to take us to half moon. I'm bringing the block into it this time to demo with that. If you're not using a block, the left hand will come to the pinky toe side of the left foot. Step the right foot in, and then when you're ready, you'll lift that right leg. You're going to open up the hips towards me. Right arm will extend out overhead. Right toes are flexing. And then we're going to nice and slow exhale back down to our warrior two. Bring those arms up. Take a deep inhale here. Exhale, windmill down, move through your flow. Inhaling the heart forward, exhaling to downward facing dog. From here, right foot between the hands, Find that runner's lunge. Left knee comes down, left toes untuck. We're taking Ardha Hanumanasana one more time, but this time we're going to go deeper into it. So start to heel toe that right foot out. Hands will come down to frame the leg, and then we'll send the hips back, rolling the toes up towards the face. So from here, if you haven't found your personal edge yet and you know that you can go deeper, we're going to walk that back foot back a bit. So we're going to lift the knee by tucking the toes and then heel toe that knee back. And then maybe we start to heel, just heel that right foot forward a little bit more. We can untuck the toes from here. So I want you to find the edge of your comfort zone. Discomfort is okay, pain is not. But outside of our comfort zone and right past that personal edge is where we find growth. So if you have a couple blocks, you can use these blocks to bridge the gap between yourself and the earth as a little bit of a support system, so you can let a little more weight fall into it. Otherwise, just use your hands on the mat for strength to hold yourself up as you get into this pose. Keep the spine long, keep the shoulders pulling down, keep the shoulder blades pulling down the back here. And we're going to start to move out of it, but let's take our time. So tuck those back toes, lift the back knee, and start to walk it into the midline first. So once we find that nice 90-degree angle with that, we've got more support to walk the hands out to frame that front foot. And we can either roll it down and heel toe it in, or you can just bring both hands to the inside of the right foot and walk it in from there. We're going to bring both hands down to frame that right foot. Tuck the back toes, lift the back leg, standing split. From here, right foot comes down long behind you. Rise up like you're moving into your crescent lunge. It can be a subtle crescent lunge here because we're actually just using this to transition to our Virabhadrasana 3. So hands will come to heart center. Find that nice bend in that right knee. And then roll over the left toes. You start to lift the left leg, tilting the torso down parallel to the earth, flexing the left toes towards the earth. Hips are level here. Heart's lifting, so even though it's facing down towards the earth, we want to keep the shoulder blades pulling together here. Micro bend in that right knee. And then exhale as you tilt up, bringing that left foot in to meet the right with strength and control. And then just shake the hips side to side, let it go. Inhale, open up the heart, gaze towards the ceiling. Exhale, hinge at the hips, forward fold, Uttanasana. You have a couple choices here. Hands can wrap around the ankles and draw the crown down as we've been doing. You can grab opposite elbows behind the head. Or you can slide the palm face up, fingers down towards the heels, under the foot. So you'll lift up onto the right heel, slide the palm underneath, toes come onto the wrist, and then lower it back down and take it on the other side. If you're doing so, just like we do in those wide leg forward folds, don't be scared to shift the weight forward. Let the pressure of the toes come into the wrist to really feel that opening up. Really start to, again, find the edge of that comfort zone. We've already been here several times today, so you're ready to give it a little bit more. Start to release the hands wherever they are. Bend into the knees a bit to reverse swan dive up to stand. Left knee comes into the belly for one-legged mountain, left toes flex. From here, reach the hands down and around the left foot. So however you need to get them there. Or alternatively, find this bind, you can just take your two-piece fingers of your left hand and wrap them around that left big toe. If you're doing that, your right hand will stay on the right hip. From here, we're going to extend that left leg out in front of us, keeping the chest lifted for 3 more rounds of breath. And then exhale to lower it down. Lift the arms up overhead on an inhale, exhale, forward fold, let it go. Inhale to halfway lift. Exhale to plant the hands, jump, step, or hop back, move through your vinyasa. From here, left foot will step between the hands. Right knee comes down, right toes on tuck. We're finding Ardha Hanumanasana on the other side. I'm going to go ahead and just step my right knee back before I even get into the pose, because I know I have that ability to find that deep opening here. And then we'll send the hips back. Maybe this isn't enough for you once you get there, so you take it a little bit further. Again, you can bring a block or a pillow or something similar under the pelvis, under the thighs. Take one last round of breath here. And then very carefully, this is Z, by the way, very carefully start to heel toe that knee back into the midline. Roll those left toes down, heel toe that left foot back in. And then we're just going to push ourselves up through that runner's lunge, sweep the arms up like we're moving into high crescent, and bring the hands down to heart center. Warrior 3. So you can step that right foot in a bit for a little more stability. Bend into the left knee. Hands will come to heart center, and we'll roll off the right toes, flying into our Warrior 3. So hands can come behind you like you're flying. They can stay at heart center, or you can bring them down to the earth for a modified Virabhadrasana 3. With strength, nice and slow with control, right foot steps in to meet the left. Inhale, lift halfway. Exhale, forward fold. Last little Uttanasana here, so really take everything you can take from it. Begin to heel toe. Inhale to rise up all the way. Right knee comes with it. One-legged mountain. Right peace fingers or the whole binded grip will come around the big toe or the foot. And then we'll start to straighten through the leg for 3 rounds of breath. Coming back into the midline. Release it down. Shimmy it out. And then heel toe the feet to the outside edges of your mat. Toes will point out. Hands to heart center. And as if you're sliding down a wall, we want to lower the hips and sit bones down towards the earth from Malasana. Hands can come to heart center. Elbows to the inside of the thighs. If you want to press into the hands, you'll get a little more opening through the thighs and therefore your hips. Reach behind. And then lower the sits bones down onto the earth. From here, lower down, preparing for bridge pose. So we'll start to walk the feet in to meet the glutes. Knees are bent. You can reach down, and if you start to feel your heels with your fingertips, you found your sweet spot. So if you want to add a challenge to this bridge pose, you will bring a block between the thighs, because glance up at your thighs. We want to keep them parallel in the midline. We don't want them to splay out in our bridge pose. So it takes a little bit of thigh strength and leg work to keep them in the midline, but we really want to focus on that today because we're focusing on our hamstrings. So I'm just going to go ahead and grab my block before we even rise up and use that. So I'm going to bring it long ways between the thighs, and I'm going to squeeze it there. And then on an inhale, push into the heels, lift the hips, feel the quads engage, feel the glutes engage, feel the hamstrings turn on, pushing up onto the shoulders. Being mindful not to push too much weight into the arms here. Use the weight in the shoulders. Tuck the chin slightly into the chest. Really lift the hips up high. Gaze towards the ceiling. And then slowly, vertebrae by vertebrae, lower it down. You use the block, you can release it. Bring the feet to the outside edge of the mat if you'd like, and you can let the knees knock in and windshield wiper side to side. Second variation of this will be to walk the hands underneath the low back and interlace the fingers by our sacrum. Again, you can just stay with the first variation. And when you're ready, inhale, push into the heels, lift the hips. If you're walking the shoulders underneath, you'll push into the mat with the triceps and find those fingers. Keep the hips lifting, keep the legs pulling in towards one another. Heart's fully expanded here. And then nice and slow, release the hands, start to walk the shoulders from underneath the back. And then lower all the way down. So we are moving into a shoulder stand and a plow from there. I want to show you a couple things before we do. I want to show you modifications. So if you have a block or something like a block, your modification will be to lift the hips just as we just did and bring the block long ways along the sacrum, along the lower back, just above the muscles and the meat of the glutes. And then you can gently play around with it. See if that feels stable to you. And then extend the legs up towards the ceiling for an assisted shoulder stand. Or if you're wanting to find a modified plow, you can still keep the block underneath the back, but just lower it to the lowest setting. And then you'll just hug the knees in, wrap the fingers around the thighs, flex the toes towards the feet, and start to bring the feet towards the forehead. So this is probably a good stopping point. Be mindful not to rock too forward or too much back because I don't want you to fling the block from underneath you, or just know that that might happen. So those are your two modifications. I'm going to move into the fullest expression of the shoulder stand and the plow. You are welcome to move with me. So we will go ahead and lift the legs up towards the ceiling, and as we do so, we're going to bring our hands along our lower back and push in to the backs of the arms, the triceps, to support that low back. So go ahead and rock up. Hands come to the lower back. So we have our hips over our shoulders and our ankles over our hips. Toes can point or flex. From here, I'm going to lower my feet down. You can stay just here, but I'm going to lower my feet down to really get into my hamstrings over my head, bringing the toes towards the earth. With control, start to lift back up, one vertebrae at a time. Bring the hands to the low back. Extend the legs back up towards the ceiling. Move through your shoulder stand. Lower the hips down. Nice and slow with control. Hug both knees into the chest. Flex the toes towards the face and rock side to side. And then we'll start to rock forward and back, coming into a seated position. You have the option to roll over to the side and just sit yourself up. Legs come out nice and long in front of you. Remove the flesh from your sits bone so you can ground into the earth. Flex the toes towards the face. On an inhale, find length through the spine, and on your exhale, maintain that nice long spine as you fold over the legs. Keep the heart pulling towards the toes, just as we've always done, so we can find that really deep release through the hamstrings. When you start to kind of roll or slump over the legs, you find a release through the low back, but right now, we're focused on the hamstring. So we want to keep the spine nice and long. We want to keep the heart pulling towards the toes. So it's not about getting the nose down to the knees right now. It's actually about reaching the shoulders and the heart as close to the toes as we can get them. And by Doing so, we still find a release in the low back because our hamstrings and our low back are right next to each other. Therefore, they significantly affect one another. Inhale to rise. I'm going to turn towards you here. Extend the legs out nice and wide. We're going to bend the left knee and bring the left sole to the inside of the thigh. Square the body over the right leg. Inhale again for length, and then exhale to fold. Spine stays long. Start to work that nose towards the knee in this posture, feeling a nice opening here. Again, you fall where you can handle it. So maybe you wrap the hands around the meaty part of the calves, or maybe behind the thigh. Maybe you're lifted, you're just not getting all the way down, and that's okay. Everybody is different. Everybody is different. We all find our sweet spot. Inhale to rise. Left leg extends, right knee bends, right sole of the foot comes to the inside of the thigh. Square the body over the left leg. Inhale for length through the spine, and then exhale to fold. Inhale to rise all the way up, and then roll all the way down onto your mat, engaging the core for fun on the way down. Moving into your final posture, your Shavasana. So let the legs extend out long in front of you. Let the feet splay out. Let the arms come out at your sides. Hands are generally face up, but if you're feeling like you need to ground down a little bit, you can bring the palms face down, but I just recommend having them face up. Just kind of receive those good vibes. Slightly tuck the chin into the chest to elongate through the back there, the cervical spine. Doing a quick scan before we find this final relaxation. Releasing the tension between the temples, the tongue from the roof of the mouth, the jaw if it's clenched. Allowing the shoulders, hips, and ankles to fall heavy into the earth. And if your thoughts arise, acknowledge them and dismiss them. It's not time. If staying here on your back for a longer Shavasana feels like what you need, I invite you to do so. Otherwise, start to stretch the arms up overhead. Bend at the knees, and then just take a moment to roll over onto your side. Pausing here. With the top hand grounding down into the earth, take a moment to send yourself gratitude for showing up today, for putting in the work, for opening and strengthening, for finding the edge of your comfort zone for growth, for giving yourself this time, this love, this self-care. Keeping your eyes closed, begin to push yourself up into a comfortable seated position. Sweep the arms up overhead. Gather all the energy and the ability that you created here today, the ability to let go, the ability to grow. Draw that down through your heart center. Connect the thumbs to your heart space. Thank you for allowing me to guide you in your practice today. I hope that you leave this feeling super open, super strong, and ready to take on whatever comes at you off the mat. The light in me honors, loves, and appreciates the light in you. Namaste. If you like this video, please take a moment to like and subscribe, or maybe tell your friends. It's how Lizzie King Yoga can get noticed, and it's how I know that you are enjoying what I'm putting out for you, so I can continue to do so. Have an awesome day. Thanks.